let's talk about Andor Season 2, episodes 10 through 12. So it's the finale of Andor. We watched them. We'll talk about our thoughts without any spoilers at first and then give a spoiler warning before we get into it. But Alex, do you want to go ahead and give your score for this fourth arc of Andor Season 2?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great conclusion to the series. More so a conclusion for everyone excluding Andor or Cassian. But nonetheless, I thought it was good. I thought it was a good finale. And do I think it was the peak of last arc? No, but I don't think it needed it to be. It did about as good as it could, kind of tying into the movie. The acting was good. You kind of figure out where these characters end up, especially the ones that weren't in Rogue One. Yeah, I mean, this is the finale of the show, but and honestly, I feel like Rogue One is kind of the finale.
Yeah, that's true.
So I would give this one a 9 out of 10. I gave the last arc a 10 out of 10. This one, I'd do a 9 out of 10. I think it was good. It was really good. And there's some nitpicks I have, but yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Okay. I pretty much agree, although I think I am going to give this arc a 10. I love the show. I don't know. I might be biased. If I were to say the weakest point was probably episode 11, I may give that a 9 instead of a 10, but I still, I think all of them were great. And for what it is, I mean, for a show to lead up to a movie that's already out, they did such a good job of wrapping things together, giving us some new stuff. I started watching Rogue One after this, and it just feels like it changes the movie after watching this.
Yep.
There's certain things that I'm like, oh, I know the motivations of this. I understand. It kind of makes, obviously it's Andor, so it makes Cassian feel way more fleshed out.
Yep.
I just, as a wrap up of a show, I think it did as good of a job as it could. I think it's close to perfect. So yeah. I'm going to give it a 10. I loved it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was great.
I can see a 10. I really could. I could even be convinced, because some of the critiques I have, I don't even think it's the show's fault. I think it's just more so that it had to tie into the movie.
Sure.
So to me, it felt like it was such a slow paced show. And then this last arc, it felt like it had to tie in, like it had to end, right? Because the movie.
It did kind of feel like if they had more seasons and longer time to fill out some of this, it could have been so amazing to see it all really deeply fleshed out. I kind of agree with that.
But I don't think it's the show's fault. I think it's just it knew it had to tie in to the movie. And how many seasons can you have when you know that you have to tie into the movies regardless, or the movie? So I rewatched Rogue One as well.
Nice, yeah.
So I'm sure I'll be referencing that in the spoilers. But yeah, I can see that. And I thought the acting was really good, and that it wasn't as action packed as the last arc, but it still had decent action. And personally, I really liked episode 10. I thought that was a really good episode.
Yeah, me too, for sure. Episode 10 was awesome.
Yeah, I thought that episode was awesome. And also, I really liked I think it was the final shot of this show. I really liked the final shot.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Because it made Rogue One even more emotional.
Yes, for sure. Which is pretty impressive to do for a show to be able to pull that off.
Seriously, and I wasn't expecting that either. And
me neither.
It added to Rogue One. You know, yeah. Yeah, we'll have to get into spoilers.
Yeah, let's get into spoilers now. So, spoiler alert for Andor, Season 2, Episodes 10 through 12, and probably also Rogue One if you haven't seen it.
Hopefully you have, because it's probably the best Disney Star Wars movie, I think.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, so Episode 10, man, that episode was so good.
So good. I was not expecting the flashbacks, and I really wasn't expecting basically everything in that episode, and the way it went was just so good.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting the flashbacks either at all, because we haven't really we never really got backstory from Lumen through flashbacks.
Yeah, or Clea.
Or Luthen, sorry,
Luthen,
yeah. Or Clea, yeah.
And Clea's kind of been, she's the glue, right? She's holding everything that Luthen's doing together, and so she's just kind of always been there, but now we know so much more about where she came from, what her motivations. I almost feel like that would make the rewatch of Andor even better, is knowing all that stuff about Clea, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I read theories that some people think that Clea is Cassian's sister.
I've heard that too. I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but that was interesting. One thing I liked in that episode is the Empire and the Imperials. They're like, oh, this has to be at least a 3 or 4 man operation.
Yep.
And it's just her going in freaking solo.
Just Clea. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that line, because we know and then they find out. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. So I thought it was well executed. It was intense, and it makes sense for Clea to go in and do that.
Yep.
And rather him freaking be tortured and get information and destroy the rebels. And for all the reasons, it makes sense why she would do that.
Yep. And I really like the scene when Dedra confronts Luthen and they're talking and, you know, he just destroyed the equipment and you know he's going to do something. I thought he was going to like blow up the shop with her in it or something, but what he did was, I mean, he showed the knife and it's like, well, if you're going to show that, that's probably going to be used. So that makes sense.
Yes. Yep. I think Dedra, honestly, I think she has the worst ending. Like, not worse as in like I hated her ending, but like the worst ending as for any of the characters.
Yeah, she's pretty screwed.
She's screwed. And could you imagine, like, you go through all this and, you know, you try to be like the best
Yep, you're so committed.
Soldier pretty much, and you're so committed and it's your lifelong work, and you lost the person you're in love with over this, and then you're locked in jail the rest of your life, and you find out it's nothing was worth it because the Empire falls anyways. They stole the plans. And just think, I was just thinking she's in prison all this time when all this is happening, like in Rogue One, and
right, and then episode 4. I wonder what happens to her after the Empire falls. That's interesting.
That would be a really interesting, like, even if they do like a comic, like that'd be really interesting to see, like, just her point of view of like the Empire falling.
So was she in the same prison Andor was in season 1? It kind of looked like it in Arcana.
That's what I was wondering. It looked, I thought it looked like it too, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I mean, all the Imperial prisons could look similar, but it definitely seemed like she was in the same jumpsuit. So that's an interesting callback if that is.
Yeah.
And I also liked how in that interrogation scene with Krennic, Daedra, at first, it kind of seemed like she didn't realize how screwed she was, because she was like, basically she was scared that they would know that she had all that information, but she didn't realize they were going to think she was a rebel spy. And then when that realization happened, it was like, oh crap.
I know, and it totally, like, the way he was explaining it totally made sense that they would think she's a spy. I was thinking, I'm like, man, she's screwed. Like, that was a really interesting scene. Honestly, it's just crazy how in this series, like the Imperials, like the Empire, they're scary in this series. I don't know what it is.
They do a good job of making them scary, but then also us seeing behind the scenes how like they're cutthroat to the point of like making it worse for themselves. Like even in Rogue One, like Tarkin kills Krennic, and here like they throw Dedra in jail even though she's like one of their best operators, and Partagaz kills himself even though he's you know, up there. They're just kind of like eating themselves from the inside with how awful it is.
And that was a good scene too, because like that just showed that he did not want to go see I'm assuming it would have been the Emperor and Vader.
Yep.
And that he would rather have, you know, killed himself than to go and see them. That to me, that's more powerful than showing him go to them and them doing something.
I agree. And with like that speech from season 1 at the beginning of that scene, and you can just tell he knows like it's all crumbling down. The rebellion is everywhere. They're totally screwed. He's screwed. He knows they're gonna, you know, throw him in jail or whatever. And there's no way out. Yeah, that was a really well put together scene with that speech at the beginning.
It made the Emperor, it made him more terrifying. The fact that someone would go to that length to avoid like going down to them, you know, or up to them, whatever.
Yep, absolutely.
What was episode 5? I can't remember right now. Or not episode 5, sorry, episode 11.
I think episode 11 was the one with Dedra talking to Krennic. And then it was the first half of them in the apartment trying to get Clea out. So she sends the message and they come, and then they go in there, and it ends when they get to Clea.
Okay, that's right. And then the Empire, they're trying to figure out where she is, and they finally pinpoint. Yeah, that's right.
And even then, Dedra's like helping that guy try to find them, trying to get out of it, but nope, it's not going to help her.
Nope. I don't know. Maybe she thought, I'll give you guys, they need me because I know them, kind of thing. But yeah, I agree. I think that was the weakest one. But when I say the weakest one, it's still still
peak
great.
Part of the season. Yeah,
it's still great. Was there any standout scenes like in this episode, or any notes you had?
I think the Krennic is so good. There are two things in this episode that I really liked. Krennic with his like pointing the finger at her like in a really weird way. It just, if it was in any other show, it would have been goofy, but it just felt so sinister. Like, I don't know. That was such an interesting part. So that interrogation, and then I also just love K2SO. He was great in this. He steals every scene he's in.
Yes, he does. And it was Alan Tudyk returned for his voice, right?
He did, yep. And there was a shot in this episode, or maybe it was the next one, I think it was this one, where it was like a horror movie kind of thing, where K2 takes that one Imperial guy and uses him as a shield and is just like marching down that dark hallway getting shot at. It was like, dang, those guys could be like a horror movie villain kind of thing.
Yeah, that's funny you say that, because I did read from the director that they wanted to make a horror episode with
them.
him.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
With K2, what is it, K2SO?
Yeah, I can totally see that.
There was going to be like a horror vibe type episode, but they didn't like have the budget apparently for it or something.
Because like, you know, they're all dark and in dark hallways and you just see the eyes. I could totally see that.
Is there any criticisms you had on these episodes? I know we're talking positive,
sure,
and before we get into the final episode,
I do think some things, like they had the montage section, and it does feel like they could have done a lot more with that. It does feel like they had ideas for more seasons, but kind of like we said earlier, like you can't get to everything. There's you're running up against the movie, and there were a bunch of time jumps, like they jumped year to year. Yeah. So I personally would have loved to see more, but I understand why they didn't or couldn't. Yeah. Other than that, I mean,
like, were you happy, like going into the last episode? Were you happy where all the characters were left off?
I was happy after the last episode where they left off. Yeah, going in, I mean, we didn't really know exactly where they were going to be, but I think it wrapped it up really well. I know you said you had some nitpicks. What were some things that you had some issues with? I'm curious.
So similar to you, and like what we said, I do feel like the last arc felt accelerated because it had to be, kind of. Also, this is more so a nitpick with Rogue One. So where does with what's his face? Why can't I think of his name right now?
I do have one thing. Is it Saw?
Okay, well, Saw, yes.
Yeah, there's some things with Saw, but go ahead.
But for me, the other character is was it Willman? So he's with the rebels still, right? He didn't die or nothing. He's just with the rebels. But obviously he's nowhere to be found in Rogue One. And again, that's not like, I guess that's more of a thing. Like, he was a made-up character for the show, so obviously he wasn't in Rogue One.
Yeah.
But like after seeing this, it made me like, I wish they would like go back and to Rogue One,
put him in the background somewhere.
But I guess for me with Willman is, for his character was like the weakest one for me, just because I know he was doing that stuff for Saw, but I guess what I'm trying to say is his like ending and stuff was for me the weak part. I didn't necessarily care for him. I didn't care for his storyline.
I agree,
and I feel like I was supposed to.
Yeah, the thing, these two kind of tie in together. Like the episodes with Saw and Willman, it felt like they were setting up something and then just never went back to it, because it felt like Willman was kind of on Saw's side, kind of, but then he goes back to the rebels, and it definitely feels like they probably were planning to do more with that and then didn't. And then Saw overall, like this, the one thing I will say is it kind of makes sense why Saw is so unhinged in Rogue One, because he's like on this rhino gas or whatever, and maybe that's what he's breathing. So he might just be like a high, he's high all the time and going crazy.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I don't really know why Saw we had like a whole part of an episode dedicated to him and his crew and stuff, and then just nothing ever really happened with it. So I agree with that.
Also, like, kind of getting into Rogue One, and maybe it flew over my head. Why was Saw the one to take Jin?
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? Why was he the one? Like, I know Jin's father was working with him or sent it.
Yeah.
Am I confused on this? Like, I was just concerned why Saw is such an important role, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's just because her father had a connection with Saw somehow. Did
her father know how unhinged Saw is?
No, because at that point, I don't think he was that crazy. He was still like part of the early rebels, and he didn't really break off, I think. So I don't think he did, and it happened kind of after that, because it's when she was young, so it was a little before he went so crazy.
Yeah, so I guess, those are my criticisms. I'm not a huge fan of Saw. Willman, I didn't hate Willman. Like, I liked him. I just wasn't as interested in the storyline, and the ending to the storyline is the weakest. It's like he's still with the rebels, but obviously we don't see him in Rogue One or anything. And again, that's not Andor's fault. But at the same time, why create that character? I don't know.
I feel like with him and Clea and Vel and even like Mon Mothma, there's pieces that can be used for like a show or a book or something about how the rebels like come to power after the Empire falls and how they set everything up.
Yeah.
Or even what they're doing during episodes 4, 5, 6. Like that would be interesting. I'd love to see more about Vel and more about Clea, especially like what she's doing now. And then Wilman could be there. So that would be cool. I don't know if they're going to do that, but that would be interesting.
Like all those characters except for Wilman, I feel like, I know he did that episode of Saw. Felt like they had a purpose, like Bix, you know, with Cassian, and obviously Luthen was a made up character, and he's like probably the biggest like piece. And then even Cyril, is that how you saw his name? Cyril, you know, he was made up with the show, right? And huge. Like all these other pieces that were made up for the show felt like they had huge impact. Clea, obviously, like without them, there wouldn't be Rogue One. They wouldn't know about the plans without Luthen, you know, like. But then you have Wilman, and he has that episode, like he's always around, he's a cool dude, he's a rebel, right? But it's like, what was the purpose of his character?
He was the connection because he was still on the side of Luthen, or at least because he had that thing where they could contact him. And I think it was how Andor was still kind of connected to Luthen through Wilman, because Wilman was still in contact with Luthen. That's pretty much it, though. It's like a small piece.
Yeah. And like I said, I didn't like dislike him or anything. He was a weaker point.
He was. A lot of his stuff was side stuff, like him having that girl on this planet with the wheat, and then him having the girl on Gorman, and like it was like just kind of he has to go do something else.
And I didn't have any emotional impact with this character. Like with Luthen, I'm like, oh man, that sucks. Or even with Clea, I'm like, oh, I hope nothing. She's awesome. I hope nothing happens to her. And even with Cyril, I'm like, oh, that's like kind of sad in a way. But yeah, I mean, besides that, I mean, I thought we mentioned earlier the final scene, because the last episode is pretty much just a conclusion for all characters beside Cassian. And like the ending to the characters, like I said, I thought were great, especially like when it showed Bix with the baby.
I was not expecting that, but I love that.
I wasn't either, and I didn't like. It made such bigger impact watching like Cassian, you know, die in Rogue One. Knowing that God, he had a son out there like
that he never knew about.
And poor Bix is never gonna find him.
And it also retroactively makes her decision to leave make so much more sense.
Yes, that too. Multiple reasons. Like I even accepted her initial reason, right? Like she knows that he has a bigger purpose. But now this makes even more sense that like, but on the flip side, I'm like, no, you should just let him like, like that's his son. But then it's like, they probably wouldn't have gotten the plans to the Death Star.
And I think earlier she said, we have to win. And she made sure that happened.
Which makes sense. It makes sense to protect her son.
That's true.
She didn't want her son living in a universe ruled by the Empire.
Man, the show is so good.
It really was a great show. And even when because I know, like, I read some people like, oh, it's so slow and it's so boring. And I mean, maybe it's just not your kind of show then. And that's coming from me. Like, I even told you, the first 6 episodes weren't clicking with me. Like, I was enjoying I think, like you said, I think the first season kind of started like that. Like, the first few episodes took a minute to kind of click.
Yeah.
And once you hit that peak and you see it all come together, it makes you kind of like I want to rewatch the series, and like you said, and it'll probably make me appreciate even more those episodes I thought were like, they're okay.
It retroactively makes them better. That's
cool. Kind of like how Rogue One makes, you know, A New Hope better in a way.
True.
Like, I just love it, man. Like, if you were to never watch Star Wars and like they asked how to watch it, I would still say, like, me personally, watch the original trilogy and then watch Andor, watch Rogue One, or you could even watch Andor, Rogue One but the only reason I say watch the original trilogy first is they're so old, and I feel like people will get turned off from seeing such like beautiful special effects and stuff. Like, I would include Andor and Rogue One. Like, I would include these freaking canon, man. Like, they're must watch if you're a Star Wars fan.
You know what's funny? I was talking to my mom yesterday. They were watching Andor, and they saw like some commercial with Hayden Christensen, and my mom had to explain who he was in Star Wars to my stepdad. Like, he's watching Andor, but he doesn't know who Anakin is. I was like, what?
Wow.
That's
dude,
crazy.
She almost shouldn't have told him, because that would have been crazy to see him like watch all the other ones. So did he not know? Does he not know Darth Vader is Anakin? Did she explain?
He may have known that at some point. I don't know if he cares that much about Star Wars to like remember or like he's yeah.
I would just love to see someone like, I wish I knew someone who didn't know anything about Star Wars so I could see their reaction when they find the stuff out.
I know.
That's great. But yeah, watching Rogue One, so like I kind of want to talk a little bit about Rogue One,
yes,
because it kind of ties hand in hand with Andor.
Yeah, for sure.
For you, I'm curious, did it enhance the movie for you, or did it make you realize, God, the writing and everything is so much better in Andor?
It enhanced a lot of things, but yeah, I mean, it's a movie, so you can't get as deep. So I definitely feel that watching Rogue One. Like it feels, after watching Andor, it feels super rushed, right? Like
oh yeah.
But it's also like, I guess they're on a timer with the Death Star and stuff, so that makes sense. But like, especially, I feel like what it did is it made Cassian feel like much more of a main character, because you know all his motivations. You like, he goes to talk to Tivik and you're like, oh, I know that from the show. That's why I know why he's going to talk to this guy. And then he kills him and you're like, oh, that's such a Luthen move. It's like, you know all these reasons he's doing this. And when I first watched it, you know, Cassian was like, yeah, he's an interesting character, I guess, but like Jin is the main focus, right? Like that's kind of how it felt. But now it's like, oh, I love Cassian. It just gave so much more depth to that. So it made me like it more.
Tell me why. I thought the same thing. Like rewatching Rogue One, it felt like Cassian was the main character.
Yeah.
Like it really did. I know the focus is on Jin and she's supposed to be the main character, quote unquote, but like now watching Andor, it totally changed my perspective of the movie.
Yep. It's really interesting that it can do that. That's a sign of a good show where it refocuses and it's so good.
Yeah, it makes your point of view change of the movie. And so with like, also, I agree with what you're saying. Obviously it feels way more fast paced, but like for me, I kind of just picture this movie as the finale for the show.
Yeah.
And so like that kind of,
it makes sense.
Like offset that this one feels rushed, because I'm just thinking of it like it's the finale. It's supposed to be big. It's supposed to be action packed.
The stakes of the movie too, like the whole premise of the movie is like they are about to be screwed if they don't do this. Like there is a rush in the movie. Like they need to find this. They need to figure out how to stop the Death Star. So that also, I mean, it's the point of the movie too.
Exactly. So like the first, I'll say this. For me, it definitely enhanced it. Yeah. I think it enhanced it for me more, and I enjoyed it even more. And I will say, I still think the first hour and a half is the weakest point. Like I think it's a little bit slow, and I don't care that much about Jin's father, even though I know he's the main reason for the plans and stuff. Like, you know, that when they go on the planet to try to save her father, like that to me was kind of the weakest part of the movie. But man, that final 45 minutes, dude, my God, that might be like, I'm not like, God, dude, that's, I think it's the coolest space battle. One of the coolest space battles.
I agree.
The planet's gorgeous. The action feels great. It feels like you're watching like a freaking Saving Private Ryan. Like that to me, I loved it, dude. Like it's so gritty. It's like war. It's the action and the meaning of it and the tragedy of it and the Vader scene. It's peak Star Wars movies, dude. Oh my God.
All of that stuff was not even to mention the Vader scene. Yeah.
I know. Like, and it was just so, there was one scene that caught my eye when I was rewatching it. It was showing TIE fighters like flying over them, and then the Rebel Alliance breaking through and shooting them down, and then like the camera like just panned down on our characters like running with on the beach with what are they called? ATST, like an ATST shooting at them. Like, God, dude, it's just like kind of like in a one shot showing like the sky and then troops running on the ground. And dude, it was almost better than I remembered, and maybe that's because we watched Andor.
Could be,
But God, it's so good, that last 45 minutes.
Yep.
And I loved the beach, like the planet, like it just felt different.
Yeah, Scarif is really cool.
Yeah, and then like the space, like the battle scenes in space were freaking awesome. And and like you said, Sonny mentioned the Vader scene, and then just the ending, how it ties literally directly into freaking A New Hope.
Yep, it's so cool how it's like all one story tied in together now. That's so cool.
Yes, it's like so cohesive. And man, hate on Disney all you want, but they got Rogue One and Andor right. I'll give them that.
Yep. Agreed. And it's so funny too, because like all the stuff I was excited for, and then they announce Andor, I'm like, that might be interesting, and then it ends up being like the best thing.
I know. Well, even Rogue One, I wasn't like super excited for. I'm like, like a side story of, you know, the main trilogy. I don't know. But now it's like, God, I was dumb because it's the best freaking Star Wars movie, Disney Star Wars movie.
Yep.
Like you're right. And then Andor, exactly. Like I laughed when
It's like
they announced Andor.
Do we really need more of the side character in Rogue One, really? And then
that
it's
we
like,
know dies.
Yeah.
I agree. I remember laughing, and then like Obi-Wan was announced and Ahsoka and all that. I'm like yeah. But like, and then it's Andor. I hope the people who created Andor, please Disney, give them another Star Wars project.
I hope so. I don't know if they will, but give him everything.
I hope, man. Yes, like I just yes, please. Like this feels like the true like adult side of the Star Wars universe. The war, the politicalness, the grittiness,
a lot of adult
and
themes too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Even through a second season, with the creepy Imperials trying to kind of get with Bix and just little things like that. And me, I love like the fantasy side, like Jedi's lightsabers.
Yeah, same.
It's probably my favorite aspect of Star Wars. I mean, I feel like everyone loves the lightsabers.
Yep.
But man, this is great.
They're like fighting with one hand tied behind their back and winning. Like no Jedi, no lightsabers.
Yeah.
It's still making an amazing show. I love it.
I think we mentioned it in our last episode. Like shows like this make the Jedi even cooler.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Like when you don't see a lot of them and you realize how powerful they are and how mystical they are, and it's rare to find them.
Almost like mythical figures at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. It's cool. And there was not a single, they did it, man. There's not a single cameo cameo for, I'm talking about like a C-3PO or something.
Yeah.
Like a main Star Wars cameo. And there wasn't a single lightsaber in the whole series.
That's crazy.
The whole series. They didn't give into the temptation.
Yep.
It's easy, right? It's so easy to throw in a lightsaber somewhere.
Yep, it is.
And even a little bit me hopes for it, but then I realized just because I want it doesn't mean it should be in there. I don't really want it. It's just we're so used to lightsabers.
Yeah, we're expecting it. Yep.
It's been great, and I'm sad it's over, and I really hope Star Wars can shoot out another one of an Andor type show because they're not on a hot streak.
Nope.
The next thing I think we have is the Mando and Grogu movie, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure when that's coming out. I think that is the next.
I think it's next year.
Okay.
Which is insane. Can you believe? When did Rise of Skywalker, the last Star Wars movie, come into theaters? Wasn't it like 2019 or something?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, 2019.
So then by the time it comes out next year, it'll have been 6 years since there's been a Star Wars movie in theaters.
Yeah, jeez. Hopefully it's good.
Time freaking flies.
Yeah, I know.
6 years, dude. Anyways, we're getting off track. Yeah, we'll go watch Andor.
Oh, Andor's so good. So good.
And Rogue One.
And Rogue One.